the Carolina Panthers quarterback situation. If you know me, if you've been watching this channel or listening to this podcast for a long time, I am a big Carolina Panthers fan. Obviously, my team is the Chicago Bears. I've been a huge Chicago Bears fan. They're my favorite team. But the Carolina Panthers is a team where I've kind of fallen in love with two teams. And it sucks. I hate when they play each other, but I love the Carolina Panthers. I love the Chicago Bears. It sucks. But the Carolina Panthers quarterback situation right now is very interesting because honestly, I have no clue who's going to be taking snaps for the Carolina Panthers next season. There are so many different guys that I can see, whether it's going to be Teddy B again, whether we're going to trade for a guy, hint, who we're going to talk about, Mr. DW, Deshaun Watson, released today that he wouldn't mind being traded to the Carolina Panthers. That's one of the places that he's deemed acceptable to be able to go to. It was the Panthers, the Jets, and the Dolphins, I'm pretty sure. Or is it going to be a draft guy? And there's 3 guys I have circled on the draft board that I could see being a Carolina Panther. There's one guy that I have circled, especially one guy that I think if the Panthers had the chance to grab him, you have to take him. There's no way we could let this guy up. And obviously, it's not Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1, but we'll get into that later. So let's starting off talking about Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater this season, he wasn't anything special, but I think he was just a good system quarterback. The Panthers weren't expecting to make the playoffs or make a deep playoff run this year. We weren't expecting all those great things. And I thought that Teddy Bridgewater at points in the season showed that he could be a decent quarterback for the Panthers. Obviously, he had his spurts where it wasn't the greatest, but if we brought him back for another season and he was our starting quarterback, especially if we get Christian McCaffrey back, when we get Christian McCaffrey back, I wouldn't see that as the worst thing ever in the world. Yes, I think it's time to see someone new in the Carolina Blue taking snaps for the Panthers, but that's not up to me. And I honestly wouldn't throw too much of a fit at all if Teddy Bridgewater was still our quarterback. If we finish towards the bottom of the league next year, we finish towards the bottom, get another draft pick, build our defense, which still needs some work, but we saw signs of it getting way better this season. We drafted one of the biggest steals in all of the draft, who was a Jeremy Chin, one of the best defensive players for the NFL this season, one of the best defensive rookies this season. So the Panthers, we have things to build on. And if we go with Teddy Bridgewater one more year and we just don't see any reasonable options to go out and get a quarterback that's going to cost us a reasonable amount, stick with Teddy, go draft. If we're going to not draft a quarterback first round, we have to be circling Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has to be all over our board if we're not going for a quarterback, because that completes your offense except for the quarterback. And when you bring that quarterback in the next year, good things are going to happen. Look at this. Christian McCaffrey in the backfield and Mike Davis. Mike Davis was electric this season. I'm a big South Carolina Gamecocks fan. I knew that he was good going into the season because I watched him his whole career at Carolina. But Mike Davis really stepped in for C-Mac and had an amazing year for what it was, stepping in for probably, in my opinion, definitely the best running back in the NFL. Lots of people will argue with me. People will say, oh, Derrick Henry is. Not a chance. C-Mac all the way. The receiving core, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. The receiving core is going to be there. You just add Kyle Pitts onto that. It is going to be a fun time for whoever steps in at quarterback later on for the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be a fun time for whoever that is, because you're going to have probably a top 5 most electric offense in the NFL, depending on who you bring in at quarterback. Do you wait for a quarterback next year in the draft? If you bring in Kyle Pitts this year, you're going to have to wait, or you're going to have to hit a trade or something. But even if we hit a trade, even if we trade for Deshaun Watson, I think our pick's going. We're not going to be able to get Kyle Pitts. So let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson wants to become a Carolina Panther if he gets traded. That's one of his top options. The Panthers, what are they willing to give up, and what is reasonable for us to give up? 3 first-round picks off the board. I do not want to give up our future for Deshaun Watson when you have some really, really good guys in the draft, which will cost you nothing but your own draft pick to take. I'm not giving up 3 draft picks any day. The only guy that I think about doing it for, or I would do it for, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes would be up there. No, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's too old. Yes, he probably could bring some guys along with him and we might go win a Super Bowl and it would be fun, but it's not going to happen. I trade 3 for Patrick Mahomes, and I look at everyone else in the league. Football is not based around your quarterback. Yes, your quarterback means a lot, but if you have a star quarterback and that's it, you don't have an O-line, you don't got any receivers, you don't got any running backs, you don't got a defense, which is something that the Carolina Panthers are desperately needing building blocks for, which we got some solid young players on this defense. I mentioned him before, Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, you got Derek Brown, lots of good young defensive talent on the Panthers. Just keep adding on to it. If we trade all of our first round draft picks for the next couple years, you could kiss that goodbye, because we are not going to be getting any young talent in, and we're just going to be relying all on Deshaun Watson to be able to go out and put up 50 points a game because our defense can't stop anyone. We need draft picks in the future. 2 first-round draft picks, that's a little bit more reasonable. It still stings for me. I don't want to give up 2 years worth of draft picks for Deshaun Watson. And that might be because, I'm a South Carolina fan. I don't like Deshaun Watson because he kicked the crap out of South Carolina every year and he won a national championship at Clemson. Yes, I could be being a bit biased there, but Deshaun Watson, honestly, I look at him in comparison to some of the guys in the draft, and obviously the guys that I'm talking about in the draft. The guy that is probably the most realistic for the Carolina Panthers to land is Trey Lance right now. I'd take Deshaun Watson over Trey Lance if it meant we had to trade for Deshaun, trade our draft picks, whatever. I'd take Deshaun Watson over Trey Lance. You look at Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the guy that I think if the Panthers have any shot at getting Justin Fields, if he falls anywhere near them, I'm not saying we have to trade up, but if he falls in our lap, we have to take that kid. The boom potential is there. The boom potential is there. People are scared about the bust potential, but I feel like no team is going to do anything good if you're not able to take risks in a guy like Justin Fields, who is one of the most electric players in all of college football. He shows that he has the playmaking ability of kind of Deshaun Watson. He's mobile. He's got some strength to him. He could throw the ball accurately, deep downfield. I love Justin Fields. I want him in Carolina Panther blue next season. I would be absolutely thrilled if the Panthers fall to him. That's who I want. And then you have Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson may fall to the Panthers. It looks really unlikely now because it looks like the Jets are going to take him at 2. Unless the Jets pass up on him and take Sewell, an offensive lineman out of Oregon, and we trade up to the 3rd pick, I don't think we're getting Zach Wilson. But I honestly would take Justin Fields over Zach Wilson. I think that Zach Wilson stock is just shot up for an unknown reason. I don't know why. It has. I made a video ranking my quarterbacks in the draft this season. I'd take Justin Fields over Zach Wilson. It's just my opinion. But you see all those 4 guys that I just named there, Deshaun Watson, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields. To me, they all seem very, very similar in their play style. Obviously, the safest bet is Deshaun Watson. I'm not playing it off as if I could take any of these guys risk-free. We don't trade any draft picks. If we could just draft Deshaun Watson, and I'm putting my Carolina fandom aside, where I'm like, I want the best for this team, I'm taking Deshaun Watson. He has proved the most. He's performed at an NFL level. He's the guy that's going to give you the least amount of risk as an individual player. But then you look at the baggage he brings along with him. If it comes to we have to trade our future to get Deshaun Watson in the Carolina blue, to get him into Bank of America Stadium, obviously in a Panthers uniform. 1 first-round pick, I'm fine with. 2 first-round picks, I'd swallow hard. Like, you just take a big gulp and be like, okay, yeah, that hurt a bit. I don't want to trade 2 first-round picks. The last guys that have traded 2 first-round picks for, like, you look at Khalil Mack, that trade didn't really look like it's panning out for the Chicago Bears now. They missed 2 years worth of good first-round draft picks for that. You look at some of the other guys, like who else was there? I'm drawing a blank. There's some other guys that were traded for first-round picks. I saw the stats or whatever, but none of them have been worth the trade. I really don't think that 2 first-round picks would pan out well for us. A first-rounder and a second-rounder or a third-rounder, I'd do that. I'd do that for sure. Now, would the Texans take that? Probably not. There's a good chance, considering the Texans' decisions in the future, but it would... I'm at a loss for where. I don't even know what to say, because he's going to be wanting... The Texans are going to want a lot for him. He thinks that his stock is going to be worth a lot. and I just see Deshaun Watson going elsewhere. I think that the Panthers will be fine if we take a guy in the draft. We have tons of talented guys in the NFL draft this season, tons of guys that could be the future of this franchise. You go out, you keep your picks for next season, maybe in the coming years, draft a big O lineman, draft another DB, we need a safety, something like that, and then you see Carolina Panthers in the in the Super Bowl contention. Look, the Bucs are still going to rule the NFC South this year. No matter who we bring in at quarterback, I don't think that our defense is there to compete with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yet. You're building for the future. You're building for the future. Remember that. It's not a win now mode. This is an investment. This is something that we got to look at as we have to build the blocks for the future. Yes, I'd love to win next year. I love the Panthers to go out and win this year. But being realistic, the Bucs still look like they're going to rule the NFC South. The Saints are going to look decent. I want to see who they bring in at quarterback. That'll be interesting. The Falcons suck. So I think we could make the playoffs next year if we bring in the right guy, Deshaun Watson. But Super Bowl contention is a different story than playoffs. So that is my thoughts on the Panthers quarterback situation. And honestly, who I take, I said it, Justin Fields is going to be my number one guy. You don't have to waste any of your future draft picks on him. He's got the talent to be one of the best in the league. Yes, people see him as a risk, but I'm honestly willing to take the risk. I'd put Deshaun at 2, then I'd go Trey Lance, and then Zach Wilson 4 just because I don't think we're going to get him. I don't think it's going to be a reach. We're either going to have to trade up for him, and I don't think that there's going to be any chance that the Panthers, he falls back to 8 in the Panthers just with the amount of hype that his draft stock has gone up. It's been insane. I don't know what's up with it, but it's just how it goes.